Alright, let's take a look at this. That says Julie used 12 3/4 gallons of water on her garden on Monday. She used 15 1/4 gallons of water on Tuesday. What is the total amount of water Julie used to water her garden on Monday and Tuesday? So we're looking for the total, just as if we were doing whole numbers. We would add these two amounts. So we're adding 12 3/4 plus 15 1/4. Okay. Well, if we look at these two numbers, we know they're made up of a whole number and a fraction. So it would be easier if we did the whole numbers first and then did our fractions. So if we look at this, we have 12 plus 15. These are our whole amounts, so we can join these together. So we have 7, 2. So the two whole numbers amount, so we have 27 whole gallons. And now I'm going to add 3/4 plus 1/4, which is 4/4. But if we notice, our answer is not 27 4/4. There's nothing up there that's 27 4/4. Well, that's because we should recognize this 4/4 is equal to 1 whole. If I drew this model of 4/4, that means I broke the whole into 4 equal parts, and I'm talking about all 4 of them, so I'm talking about the whole amount there. So this makes another 1 whole. So if 4/4 equals a whole plus 27, we know that this is equal to 28 gallons. Let's just see. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one then. Okay. Another fraction problem. It says Jalen bought 3 kinds of meat. He purchased 1/4 pound of roast beef, 3/4 pound of ham, and 3/4 pounds of turkey. Which choice below describes the total weight of the meat? So first we need to find the total weight before we can make a good selection. So we add 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 1/4. We end up with 7/4. We know that we don't add or subtract the denominators, okay, and that we only add our numerators. So we have 7/4. But I don't see 7/4. So obviously they have renamed this as a mixed number, because we notice that the top number is larger than the bottom number, which makes this an improper fraction. So if we modeled how much 7/4, I'm going to start off, so we're talking about fourths. So I'll divide 1 whole into fourths. So that's 1/4 here, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. But I still haven't finished. So I know I have over a whole, so I'm going to have to draw another whole and divide it into fourths. And I just counted 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So this would be 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. So 7/4 is equal to 1 whole and 3/4 more. Now we have a better idea by going over here. So is 1 3/4 less than 1 pound? No, we've got more than a pound. So let's go through. Is it between 1 and 1 1/2? Well, we know it's more than 1, but is it less than 1/2? Is 3/4 less than 1/2? Well, we can look at our model right down here again, and we can see that 3/4 is more than 1/2. So 1 3/4 is more than 1 1/2. Let's go to the next one. So it says, is it between 1 1/2 and 2 pounds? Well, we just realized that 3/4 is a little more than 1/2. So 1 3/4 is in between 1 1/2 and 2 pounds. Our last choice, which doesn't make any sense related to our answer, is more than 2 pounds. Okay, let's go on to the next one. What is the value of n? And all that means, that's the unknown. Okay, they could have drawn a box there, but they just used a letter instead. So 4 times 3/4. So I know we haven't done much with this, but we've done lots with multiplication. And what does multiplication mean? If I asked you, on a side note over here, if I said, what would be the addition sentence for 4 times 3? You would tell me, or hopefully you tell me, that that's 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And that would be correct, because we know those 3 together equals 12. Well, nothing's changed. We're still using the multiplication, and we're doing 4 groups of 3 4s. So instead of just 3, it would be 3 4s plus 3 4s plus 3 4s plus 3 4s. Okay. Now we would add all these, just like we did up here, still adding 4s. That's kind of strange. But anyway, so 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 12. And we know we don't add the denominators. Okay, so this would be 12 fourths. We don't see 12 fourths over here, so hopefully you won't go back and think, oh, A is the correct answer. It is not. We do not add the denominators. So now, looking at 12 fourths, that's one of those improper fractions. So how many wholes can we make with 12 fourths? Well, I know 4 fourths makes 1 whole. So how many 4 fourths can I get from 12 fourths? I can get 4 fourths, and another 4 fourths, that's 8 fourths, and another 4 fourths makes 12 fourths. So all those fours together still gives me that same amount as 12 fourths. So now I know that's 1 whole, 2 wholes, 3 wholes. So my answer to this would be 3 wholes. All right, let's keep on moving. Let's go to the next one, which is number 19. Let me change my paper. You can get. Okay. Now, only a few of you have gotten this far, but let's take a look, because sometimes we get questions that we're not familiar, but we should use what we know. It said Vicky poured 50 hundredths liter of water into a bowl. Okay, Susan poured 3/10 of a liter of water into the same bowl. Okay, so they poured into this bowl. They poured some amounts. Vicky poured 50 1/100ths, and Susan poured 3/10. Well, and it's asking for the total amount. So we know we're going to add these two amounts. But let's go back to what we talked about in class, and what we know is that we know that we need to be counting the same things here. Here I'm counting by hundredths. Here I'm counting by tenths. So I can't combine them. That's like trying to say 50 apples and 3 oranges is 53 apples or 53 oranges. That just doesn't work. So I've got to do something so I'm talking about the same thing. So we can do this one or two ways. Let's first think, so can we write 3/10 as an equivalent fraction with 100? Of course we can, because we know 10 times 10 is equal to 100, and I can multiply 3 times 10 and equal 30. Now, 30 hundredths, it means the same thing as 3/10. So now I'm talking about hundredths and hundredths, and now I can join these two amounts because I'm talking about the same exact thing. So 50 hundredths plus 30 hundredths equals 80 hundredths. Oh no, look at my answer choices. There's no 80 hundredths. Does that mean we're wrong? No, we've worked in Word. That's why we spend weeks on equivalent fractions. Which one of these is equal to 80 hundredths? Well, let's test the first one. Is 8/10 equal to 80 hundredths? Let's see. What would we multiply 8 by to get 80? 10. What would we multiply 10 by to get 100? 10. It is. So right here is the amount that they poured in the bowl. All right, let's take a look at number 20. Mark and Leonard went bird watching. Leonard saw 4 times as many red birds as Mark. One of those multiplication comparison. Hopefully you did this. I'll be looking for this when I check your homework. So Mark and Leonard, which one saw the times as many? It's Leonard. And Leonard saw 4 times as many. Now, that means Mark has the 1 box. Now, we need some more information. So did they give us Leonard's amount or Mark's? Well, let's go to the next. It said Leonard saw 28. So all of this together, Leonard saw 28. So now, which one of these equations would tell us how many Mark saw? So we're trying to find out what goes in the box. So all of these together. So I don't have 4 groups of 28. Actually, I'm splitting up that 28. So it wouldn't be that. We know we're not doing a subtraction. We're not doing an addition. So the only one that makes sense is that 28 split 4 ways. Okay, let's go to the next one. Which fraction is equivalent to 75 hundredths? We've had this one before, so hopefully you remembered. So we got to find, so we're going to test each one. So is 3/4 equal to 75 hundredths? So what would they multiply 3 by to get 75? Hopefully you remember your money. It takes 3/4 to make 75 cents. So I must multiply 4 times 25, and I know 4/4 makes 100 cents or $1. So I've just found my equivalent fraction. Also, we could reason through this. We know 75 hundredths is more than a half. 3/6 is exactly half, so it can't be that. 1/3 is less than a half. It couldn't be that. And 1/4 is less than a half. So I really didn't even need to do this multiplication, but this is a good check, meaning we should always check our work. 22. Marcy and Alexis went running. The distance Alexis ran was farther than the distance Marcy ran. Marcy ran 5/8 of a mile. Which could be the distance Alexis ran? So we know Alexis ran further than Marcy. So Marcy ran 5/8. So if we drew, and this is not a very good bar, but I'm going to try to separate it into 8 parts so we can see exactly. Okay, so we modeled how far she ran. She ran 5/8. Okay, so there's 5/8. Well, we know it's more than a half. It's more than a half. So we need to kind of go through and eliminate some by using the benchmark of a half. So we know this is more than half. So let me go through my answer choices. Is 2/3 more than a half? Yes, it is. So that could be a possibility. Is 10/16 more than a half? Yes. So that could be a possibility. Well, there's exactly a half. We know that Alexis ran further. So obviously we have to be more than a half. So that doesn't make sense. And 3/8 isn't even a half because it takes 4 to be half of 8. So that's not a half. So now we have to take a close look at these. Now 10/16, we really haven't talked about 16, so that's kind of suspicious on its own. So I'm going to see if 5/8, because 16 is a multiple of 8. So I'm going to see if these are equal. And how about that? What do they multiply 5 by to get 10? 2. What do they multiply 8 by to get 16? 2. So actually, 5/8 and 10/16 are equivalent amounts. And of course, if they're equal, then that means that they tied and that Alexis didn't win. So the only one that is logical here is 2/3. All right, if you have any questions about any of those or the explanations, make sure you raise your hand and let me know.